Towards the end of 2022, a little-known indie studio from Hamburg, Rose Engine, consisting of only two people, Barbara Whitman and Yuri Stern, presented to the public its brainchild, an old-school survival horror in the style of cyberpunk called SIGNALIS. Today I want to steal some of your free time to talk about why SIGNALIS is the most important event in the world of interactive horror, and even more so, in the entire gaming industry. Thank you for subscribing to the RTV Gaming channel so as not to miss new videos, and we are starting. The developers do not hide the fact that their game is inspired by classic horror series like Resident Evil and Silent Hill. Almost all gameplay mechanics and game design solutions come from the first one. The story, its presentation, the design of opponents and some locations come from the second one. And the claustrophobic setting of dark space stations may well evoke memories of Dead Space as well. How is the game world organized? At first glance, nothing new. Mankind has entered the phase of interplanetary colonization and is actively developing new celestial bodies, sucking out all the minerals from them. People have learned to digitize consciousness and create intelligent androids with their help, specializing in the necessary types of work. All living people are called gestalts, and robots are called replicas. Well, as any self-respecting cyberpunk work is supposed to, replicas can slightly change their data by acquiring certain modules. Mankind is united under the rule of a certain empire, an omnipotent octopus squeezing all its subjects in its grip. So, studying documents and notes, we learn that dissent is condemned in all corners of the empire, collectivism always stands above individualism, the manifestation of creativity and freedom of expression is equated to serious offenses, and works of art objectionable for any reason are withdrawn from circulation. Moreover, as befits any totalitarian state, the empire easily punishes people for breaking the law, which at the time of its execution was not law at all. The most illustrative case is the ban on radio at the underground station Sierpinski 23, the planet Lang. Workers gained access to the wave on which the administration, protectors, as they are called in the SIGNALIS world, transmits data non-codes to all safes. Any adequate person understands that this is a clear oversight of the protectors, who should answer for such an omission, but they think differently at Sierpinski 23. Strict bans on wearing radio transmitters are introduced at the station, and those who manage to get hold of information not intended for his ears are brutally tortured in the dungeons of the ore mining complex. It would seem a standard set, but the further we move along the plot, the more we notice differences from the template genre canvas. If there is a totalitarian regime, then there will be those who will oppose it. As in the relatively recent The Observer, I compare it with it, since it is the only cyberpunk capable of approaching SIGNALIS in terms of gloominess and helplessness. There is conditional resistance here, which received the catchy name Evzen Nation. The only catch is that by joining the local resistance, you only change the oppressor. Evzen and the Empire do not differ much from each other in the methods of interaction with the population under their control and in the isolation of the privileged elite from the rest of the people. And the most beautiful thing about the game is that we are not given to understand this from the very beginning. Already at the start of the game, we are gradually faced with more and more propaganda posters that call for some kind of struggle, revolution, war, but it simply does not work out to take someone's side, since both the Imperials and the Separatists practically do not differ in their slogans. At first, the player simply does not understand anything in these political intricacies, and after a few hours of studying the in-game documentation, when the disposition of forces is realized, it does not get easier, because there is no desire to support someone, empathize with one of the warring parties. But not only political clashes overshadowed the world of SIGNALIS, society itself is in deep internal contradiction. All replicas are created on the basis of partial digitization of the consciousness of gestalts with strictly defined abilities. Not every gestalt can serve as the basis for a replica. Therefore, in the world of the game there are only a few variations of replicas. Moreover, in view of the non-ideal nature of their neural structure, replicas can be extremely unstable and mentally vulnerable if strict guidelines for their content are not observed. Replicas live without the memories of their past life as gestalts. However, these memories, in whole or in fragments, can seep into their consciousness if the conditions for their operation are not observed. Over time, scientists come up with the idea of creating a special model of the replica that generates false collective memories for the replicas that obey them. Given the close connection of androids with the personalities of the once existing gestalts, one can even call replicas former people, personalities devoid of memories or endowed with controlled images of a past that never existed. Given the close connection of androids with the personalities of the once existing gestalts, one can even call replicas former people, personalities devoid of memories or endowed with controlled images of a past that never existed. The game's plot revolves around a replica LSTR, or Elster, who crashed on her Penrose 512 ship and, waking up in a cryogenic pod, began to search for Ariana's gestalt, to which she is attached and with whom she was together on the ship. As I said, the gameplay of the game is a Resident Evil clone of the classic trilogy. An almost static camera, slow character movement, limited inventory, unloading chests and strictly defined save locations, although they are just more similar to Silent Hill saves. As I said, the gameplay of the game is a Resident Evil clone of the classic trilogy. An almost static camera, slow character movement, limited inventory, unloading chests and strictly defined save locations, although they are just more similar to Silent Hill saves. Signalis tries very hard to resemble the horror video game classics not only in gameplay but also in appearance. Everything looks nice, moderately detailed, and at the same time combines visual elements of the fifth generation of consoles and bits of pixel art from the times of earlier gaming systems. And this is all done with the same mind and sense of proportion. Pixel art here does not roll down to the 8-bit era, leaving us only the conditional outlines of characters and objects, and the obliqueness to early 3D graphics is implemented without the trembling models characteristic of the same PS1. It can be seen that Signalis is thought out thoroughly so as not to cause rejection among the gamer. Yes, the authors consciously relied on anime style, with which, in my humble opinion, they did not fail, because drawing in the style of Japanese animation appears only on some posters, rarely seen photos and cut scenes with dialogues. This approach made it possible to decently and beautifully draw all the main characters and save on facial animation. There are also cutscenes in the engine with faceless, literally, models, but this is only found where such an approach could be afforded. That is, even if you do not digest anime, the authors tried to do everything so that the collision with this cultural layer was the most imperceptible and painless for you. Interpreting the Signalis plot in the only correct way is an impossible task. The meaninglessness of an absolutely true understanding of what is happening is hinted to us from the very start of the game, by the name of the ship Penrose 512. The name of this space shuttle refers to the famous British physicist, Roger Penrose, whose 1989 work The New Mind of a King gave rise to the concept of quantum consciousness. In short, its essence lies in the fact that human consciousness arises in the process of decoherence, the transition of a particle from a superposition to one of the states. But let's keep it simple. What is Schrödinger's cat? I think, plus or minus is known to everyone. So, let's take a look at his example. The cat in a closed box has a superposition in this experiment, because in such a position the observing subject is deprived of information about the decay/non-decay of an atom of a radioactive substance, and therefore about whether the cat is alive or dead. We get one of the states when we open the box and get information about the atom/cat. It is precisely this process, the process of decoherence, that Penrose tied to the emergence of consciousness. This theory sounds intriguing from the point of view of the layman, and, it seems to me, it is precisely this theory that underlies the dualistic concept of the Signalis story. Even after going through the game to the very end several times, we will still not be able to give a clear answer whether Elster and Ariana are dead or still survived, because they are both alive and dead at the same time, that is, they are in superposition. And it is on our perception, on our consciousness, through which this story will pass, that the so-called collapse of the wave function, or, as we called it above, decoherence, will depend. And consequently, before each of us the plot of the game will appear in different variations. Of course, like any complex work, SIGNALIS is open to various interpretations and the craziest fan theories, which have already accumulated a decent amount on the internet. And I, in turn, urge you to definitely touch this, without exaggeration, masterpiece and form your own vision of what the game developers wanted to tell us about. In the end, the meaning of this frightening and confusing story lies precisely in the fact that one should not let one's individuality fade away, neither under the pressure of public opinion, nor under the yoke of a soulless system. The game is so multifaceted that it touches on a whole bunch of problems and unconsciously raises questions that the authors themselves probably did not intend to raise in their work. This is a huge story that touches upon aspects of the imperfection of the political structures of society, the personal drama of a small person in a vast soulless world, philosophical reflections on the ethics of digitizing consciousness and the search for oneself. But unlike most works of art with similar themes, SIGNALIS not only does not give clear answers to the questions posed, but quite clearly hints that there are simply no answers and cannot be. SIGNALIS is not just a high-quality indie project that was created by two independent developers, it is also a gigantic long-term construction project, which took 8 years to create. Development started already in 2014. I don't know if this German studio will release anything else, but I hope that this is just the humble beginning of a grand journey. Ready to wait for their new project, even if it takes another 8 years of hard and diligent development. And that's all I have. Share your impressions, theories and guesses about SIGNALIS in the comments. I am sure it will be very interesting, because truth is born in a dispute.